What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about 5 reasons why you should buy the iPhone 8 for going into 2022. So this is a pretty interesting iPhone for people who really just want to spend the bare minimum here. So if we go online here, so on eBay and Amazon, they are trending for around $157 to $200, and you can see that's for very good condition for an unlocked version. And I did get the refurbished one as well, and it works pretty well. I've been really happy with this iPhone 8. So I would definitely say the price, I think it's one of the cheapest and best smallest iPhones that you can get. Now if you do decide to get an SE, that phone is $400 brand new, so that is a pretty big margin. And if you get it refurbished, it is going to be $300. So I do think that this sits at a pretty nice spot at that 157 mark. I think it's really cheap, very attractive to people who maybe want a just smaller, cheaper iPhone, or you need a backup phone or something like that. So I do really love the price. So I think that would be my first thing about this phone that I really like. Alright guys, next is going to be performance. Surprisingly, on this phone, it still has excellent performance. I was looking for the little stutters and hiccups with this phone, but this phone really does not have that issue. It's actually very fast. This has the same chipset that we have in the iPhone 10 that I really like for that price point. If you guys haven't seen that video, check it out. But iOS 15 is on here. I believe this phone will get iOS, maybe even up to iOS 20. I know that's a bit of a stretch, but I would say at least 3 years max for this phone, because performance is pretty snappy on here. It's running iOS 15 fantastically, even with the widgets and everything like that. Web browsing, everything is just super smooth on this phone. So that's one thing I noticed. There was nothing that I did on this phone that it started lagging and jittering and all that stuff. So I was pretty impressed with performance on here for sure. And also game performance is pretty good. Now it's not going to perform as good as something like the 10R or something like that, but you know, you won't be able to max the graphics out, but you will be able to play games on this phone just fine. I did not have an issue with gaming on here. Like I said, you can't max it out, but it's not like it's lagging and glitching all over the place. So I think for casual gamers, you'll be perfectly happy with the iPhone 8 here. Alright, so next will be the size of the phone. So this is a 4.7 inch Retina IPS display here, and it's very unique because they just don't make phones this small at all. I think small for Android would be like 5.9, 5.8 inches, and you barely get those type of phones. So if you actually just look and see, you know, a regular, and my mom's calling, but a regular phone right here. Look at the OnePlus 7, 6.8 inches. I can fit the whole, look at that. Look how much space I got left over right there. So you can see, if you want a compact phone, this is definitely a great option. And also one thing that I think sort of goes, people don't really talk about, is that this phone, these type of phones do not crop video. So if I go to a video, and sometimes when you zoom in on your phone, when you go full screen, you have to crop. It crops out the content, so it's kind of annoying. But if I go full screen on these type of displays here, you can see the video just loads up. There's no notch, there's no punch hole. So I really like that. I think it's I think it's kind of like a little unique thing that I kind of noticed. But yeah, not being able to have, like, being able to watch in full screen and not having your content cropped out is something that I like, at least. But the display on here is fine. The build quality on here is actually very nice. It is a full glass and metal phone here, IP67 dust and water resistant as well, so you can get this thing wet, it won't break or anything like that. So I really like the size of it for a compact phone lover. This you can put it in your pocket, you barely feel it. Yeah, so I really do like the build quality and the screen size on here. Alright, so the next thing I really like about this phone is the camera setup. Now, the only negative thing about it is that it is only one camera. It's a 12 megapixel standard. It shoots in 4K though, at 4K, 24, 30, and 60, and then a 7 megapixel selfie at 1080p. Now I compared this to the iPhone 13, and a lot of people were surprised at the image quality. If you guys go ahead and watch that side-by-side photo comparison, you'll actually be surprised at how the 8 stacks up to the 13. Now, of course, the 8 is, you know, it's not the better camera, but I was really surprised. If you look at the comments too, a lot of people where as well. The 8 does still take some pretty great photos. Now, granted, it's not going to do as good in low light conditions. That's really where you see the age, but in good lighting conditions, when you put the images side by side, they are way closer than you actually think they are. So I was pretty impressed with that. Also, video is pretty good on here too. I would say the main issue with the iPhone 8 camera, and for 2021 2022, is probably just a white balance issue. That's something I noticed, but that is something that you can easily fix with, like, editing and really tap into focus. But if you just take a shot, just a point and click, then yeah, sometimes I notice I kind of struggle with white balance. But yeah, overall I was really surprised with the iPhone's 8 cameras. I still think they're pretty decent, especially at this price point. Last would be the bells and whistles, or the features with this phone. So you really cannot find a phone at this price point that's going to give you wireless charging. So I think that's kind of like a big thing as well. So this phone does have that. And the in-display fingerprint sensor is very fast, it's very accurate with the Touch ID. And that's also something that just a lot of people prefer. They just really like a home button. A lot of people just aren't sold on the gestures and stuff like that. And this phone does have stereo speakers as well, which sound very loud. You get some really crisp and clear sound on here if I turn them all the way up. So I really like the speaker quality, especially on such a smaller device. It is pretty nice. Stereo speakers are always great to have. And like I said, the IP67 dust and water resistant as well. So overall, I think the iPhone 8 is still a fairly good package in 2021, 2022. Especially if you're just in the market for a used refurbished phone and you want an iPhone for super cheap. This is just a really solid option here. So I think the one thing that I wasn't super impressed about was battery life. Now, regardless of whether you get a phone with 100% battery health, it's really not going to matter, because the battery life is just not going to be super impressive. In today's time, you can usually count on about 4 hours of screen on time. That's usually what I get on mine, with about, I think, 89 or 87% battery health. So that's also something to take into consideration. But that's really with any smaller phone, they're going to kind of struggle. But what do you guys think about the iPhone 8? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.